I'm challenged by your thorough thought process in honoring all different people in getting this thing that you really need. So you're
Because I believe that God will provide. I don't always know how it will happen.
even even in the situation that you are
right now, especially, like more than maybe ever before.
Okay, but with all that's happened, with all, you still come back.
So I come back in 2009, and by the end of the year is when, by the end of the year is when I know like it's time for Living Room to start. And the name Living Room had come from, I was having, so it's called Quiznos. It's like just a sandwich place in the States with my brother and one of the worship leaders from our church in Los Angeles. And like, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. And then I just told them, like, would you guys just be praying? Because I feel this desire, like from the work we've been doing, to start a home of sorts where people can come and it can be a refuge for them. And, you know, what I've been describing. But it was all like a vision at that point. It wasn't like a real place yet. I said, you just pray, because I don't know how to do it or what it means. And so a couple months later, Jacob, who's the worship pastor, he sent an email, which still email was like hard to get. No Wi-Fi, people. He sent an email and he said like that he couldn't get the idea out of his head, and that he was praying, and whenever he prayed that he referred to it as the living room. And, you know, it's a lot of years later, and I still feel like the space that we were trying to create and trying to give to people even now is a place of refuge. It's a place where it's more about life than anything else, and how to honor life and offer hope, which would eventually become the vision statement of the organization. So in 2010, we registered Living Room, and we were able to get the initial 10 acres in Cape Karen to think about construction, and we were continuing the work with 8 patients. And it was exclusively patients that were being referred from the HIV clinics around the area, which has changed now. I mean, it's grown, but we wanted it to be like a welcoming place. We wanted it to be like really have a hospitality element. So kind of like almost like a hotel industry standard of like cleanliness and like the way we communicate service. And it's not about like it needing to be expensive. Like it's not.
It's not about it being bougie.
No, but you should feel your value when you're received and when you're cared for. And so to create a team to be able to do that, because like none of us could do that by ourselves.
But it also sounds like there was from the vision that you had before, or when you shared about the 2 kids, it almost sounds like you were trying to bring people to give them a living chance. So it's about almost, what can we do to restore?
Yeah, so to like restore health, to restore spirit, to restore opportunities, to go back to community, like to create, even for some, like job opportunities, to create like restoration within relationships of families. And just a reminder, like if someone knows they're loved, if someone knows their value, it doesn't make everything easy, but it changes the way you engage with the world. And so that's always been like, if someone doesn't feel like there's hope, then the way they're going to live is very different than this belief of like I'm loved and there's still a chance.
Healing body, mind, and spirit. So you start this,
healing mind, body, and spirit, and then also caring that there's no food. Also caring that, like, that maybe the body isn't going to heal. So if the body isn't going to heal...
Because that's now what you started seeing. I mean...
Yeah, it's like...
Actually,
so we talk
from the day you started it, you did see that the body won't heal.
So we're doing the exact same thing that we did 20 years ago. Like, we're facing fear. We're facing... Like, there's fear and love. And there's this choice, like, are we going to let fear lead? Are we going to let love lead? And what would it look like? And that's the question we ask. What does it look like to love in this situation? Over and over and over again.
Every single person who walks in.
Because everybody who walks in, they have a different story. They have a different background. They come from a different place. But who are they and how can we love them? And that is the thing that, like, we don't do it perfectly, but like, God help us to do it wholeheartedly, like to lean in and to keep showing up and to be merciful and to choose, like, when it would be easier to run away. Like, God, give us the grace and the mercies for today to, like, lean in. And on the days, like, where maybe self-care, like, it is too much and somebody needs to walk away for whatever reasons, like, there's moments of that. Like, and there's a grace for that too. So it's not like it's all self-sacrifice. Like, there are seasons for certain people where, like, it needs to look different. And so, like, trying to, like, discern how that is too.
Wow. Things keep changing and morphing. It's just that your component of love stays the same, compassion stays the same. Just trying your best. How do you get the money to do the 10 acres? So in the story, I like seeing progression. So I'm just like, okay.
So I think, like, the formality of establishing an organization on the U.S. side, on the Kenya side, developing the boards, figuring out board roles, like, it's two separate entities.
I get it.
But they collaborate. So on the U.S. side, it's a non-governmental organization with its own leaders and regulations. On the U.S. side, it's a 501c3 with its other, rules and how did we want it to, like, work together. So for the Kenya side, the role of the board is for vision and for implementation, and not the board isn't, like, the ones on the ground, but helping to, like, make sure that we're holding the vision, that we're doing the work. And the U.S. side is more accountability for any funds that might come from the U.S. side.
Okay.
So early on we said, and, like, we're still working on this, but, like, that for Kimberley, for the hospice, that we wanted 25% of its operations to come from some sort of business. So we created the hospice to be a free service or close to free service for especially those who couldn't afford, which is a majority of the patients that we serve. There are others who can and do pay, but for many, like, cost would have been a prohibiting factor for them to be able to come. So
because you talked about economic pillar. In fact, the core reason as to why you started the clinic at the time was these two kids didn't even have the economic, or the grandparents didn't have the economic.
None, So, like, so making room, at times it's like, as much as we would want certain things to be sustainable, if we exclude the population that we're trying to serve in that process, then we're not actually doing the work, So it's like figuring out the different financial aspects while also making sure there's generosity that leaves room for people who otherwise wouldn't get service.
And maintaining the excellence that is still part of the fund.
So not compromising care, and you do need to know limits too. Like, as much as we love Elliot and he talks about the, like, being unlimited, like, there are limitations in, like, knowing your scope. Kipchoge, sorry, first name. So knowing the scope of what you can do and say yes or no to is actually important. Because it doesn't mean that you're going to have the same scope tomorrow or next week, but it's like, today, this is what we have the capacity to do. And, like, not limiting God in that, but also, like, I have been to places where, like, where it's actually the excellence is so compromised because they didn't say no when they needed to say no. And so trying to discern that, I think, is an important piece as a leader too.
We're going to start with the bends or do we just need this kind of car?
So you asked me about land. So the land was purchased. There was a partner who read in like a letter that I wrote, like one of the needs we have is to purchase land, and this is how much it costs, and they just gave the amount to purchase the land.
Wow.
And so one of the things that I've said from the very beginning of Living Room is like for donors and partners, in the same way that we want to honor the lives of the patients, the guests that we serve, the way that we want to honor the community we work in, that we want to honor the staff that does the work. Like we want to honor our partners, our donors. Like I think that sometimes in nonprofit work, like often in communication, but in fundraising specifically, there is like, we manipulate people, or we feel like if someone can give more, that they are more valuable. And like, I don't think we're supposed to use them in that way. I don't think we need to. I feel like we need to, storytelling needs to be done with integrity. I feel like the asks if every ask is urgency and an emergency, then like that's not fair to people. I think like learning how to communicate with the same level of integrity that we want to honor our patients, that we also all want to honor our partners.
So the love isn't just in the giving, it's even in the asking.
Because there's a trust in that. There's a trust that what we need will be provided in one way or another. And so that I don't have to try to manipulate someone for their money.
Wow.
And I don't want to use them. Because if I use them, then that like that's not God's heart. In the same way that if I use a patient for their story and manipulate so that I can communicate, then I'm not trusting God. And I'm also not loving. So like trying to have, and like you don't do this perfectly, but you really ask God to help you to know how to honor the people we care for, the stories we tell, like the communities we live in, that like you can twist a story and this will actually move somebody more.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because first of all, this is your CTA is so rich, and you begin to shine light on very many different aspects. When you talk about Kanji, and you talk about that period of time, 2007-8, talk about the Mavuno Worship Project, which you attended, even in some of the videos. What they did was, and even when you talk about this channel called Clean the Airwaves, part of the core is the change of narrative, because the African child with the big stomach and the fly, that in an essence, as true as that was, it's not the full picture. It's not honoring to that child. You know what I mean? Somebody said, come on, there's a comedian who said a joke, but then it was also true. It's like, how do they get the flies all the time? You know what I mean? So I laughed about it, but then I was like, that's actually a true thing. You're telling me?
And the complexity, or maybe it's simple, I don't know, but we were working with the sickest of the sick. We were working with people that the world would see as poor. So it wasn't like making up a narrative, but like if our hope and our commitment and vision is to honor people, like how then do we do it? How do we how do we do that?
Yeah.
And like with the fundraising component of it, what I just feel like is so often, it feels like there's so much striving. It feels like triple the impact, double the impact, like with these like different strategies to try to get people to give more. And I just believe that.
Was this from the get-go?
Yes. I believe that there's an invitation, and that some people will choose to give and some people, this isn't for them, and that it's okay. Like there can be enough, and that like manipulation doesn't have to be a part of it to get what is required. Like I just believe that that's true. And
that's an abundance mentality. That's a provider mentality in terms of who your provider is.
And what is also true is that, living in the village, like there are many people there where there is scarcity. There isn't, it seems like there's not enough, like where they're asking God for food for today, and there may or may not be food for today, right? So it's not like it's an ignorance to poverty, which like there doesn't need to be poverty. Like there's that awareness, but there's also an awareness that if we manipulate people to get something from them, we're using them, and that's not honoring to them or to God. And so it's just,
you're balancing a lot. That's such a I'm impressed, not I'm challenged by your thorough thought process in honoring all different people in getting this thing that you really need. So
because I believe that God will provide. I don't always know how it will happen.
Even now, even in the situation that you are
right now, especially, like more than maybe ever before. Like as we've built a system like that's somewhat dependent on the Ministry of Health for reimbursement, or we've cared for all these HIV patients for all of these years and really relied on PEPFAR and like the system of AMPATH that's in this region for it to work. Like, I don't know how those things are going. Like the intersection of all of this, it feels very daunting and it feels like so hard. And I believe there are stories to tell. I believe that there are the right voices to tell the stories. And then I believe there are people who are able to receive those stories and respond if they are given the opportunity. And I don't think we have to strive. I think we have to be responsible. We have to like know what we're saying and then be also responsible with however we utilize resources. Like there's an accountability for all of that.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, let's take a lunch break. We're coming back. So I want to speak to you guys. When Kanji organized this and said that you've got to come here, you've got to speak with Juli. I met Juli a couple of years back, over 20 years back. And Kanji told me before you do her CTA, you've got to go and see the space. You've got to go and see. In fact, he didn't say see the space. He just said you've got to go and see what she's doing. Because whatever Kanji says I have to do,
we do.
we do. I listened because he's 99% of the time wrong, right? That one time he's right. I mean, his one time is wrong. Anyway, so coming here and seeing the lives, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, you've got a smile on your face. It's all over. First of all, I've got two different emotions going on at once. First and foremost, so happy for you, so proud of what you're doing, so excited for the project. On the other hand, I've just seen a girl who's extremely, I don't even know the words, and I have a daughter.
Yeah.
I have two.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's my daughter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And mine too.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the same.
So I'm just like, this is hard.
Yeah. And there's got to be space. Mourning and dancing, they don't always take turns. Like there's an overlap of emotions all the time here.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
It completes.
Where it's like there's beauty there. You've heard singing and celebration. You've heard lament. You've heard a story of someone who, thought their life was over, and now God is using Jacob like incredibly, and he is the person for the job, Yeah. And so there's like this ongoing tension and dissonance all the time.
And it's extreme. It's such a joy.
Extreme.
And the thing that you can feel in this place is it's a different appreciation for life. It's so clear from the staff, from you, from the guests.
But we believe it's God's heart. We believe that God has given us a glimpse. And the more we look, the more we see.
Yeah. And it's inevitable for every human being. You know, but thank you for what you do. I think that's what I was trying to say. Because the gravity, and thank you for allowing me to see what it is that you do. And thank you for allowing us to see,
Yeah.
and not just see, but also participate and be a part of this. Maybe not physically, but more information. We're going to share that throughout this whole conversation.
And I don't think, like, even though like we specifically do healthcare and a specific type of healthcare, like I feel like this is not about healthcare itself. Like there's a translation of this that goes
Yep.
into education or into church spaces or into banking or wherever you might work. Like in the same way that this isn't about geography, it's also not like just medical care. I feel like there's an attitude in the way that we look at people and the way that we see their value that should apply wherever we might be and whatever we might be doing.
Yeah. So, where are we now?
We're at Living Room's chapel. We're in the chapel.
Wow. So what made you build a chapel? And probably let me stand here just because of the echo, and we'll take some cutaways. What made you?
So we built the first one in our other location, and then we wanted to bring it here. So it looks similar in both sites. All of our architects, builders, stained glass, everything came from Kenya. So it like matters to us that it's locally designed and created and built. But we wanted a place of prayer. We wanted a place where people would feel welcome to come, whether it be our guests, our family members, our staff, the community, where there could be room for people to come, that it would be wheelchair accessible, that like people would know this space is for them and that God is for them. So we have different worship services in here. People come and just pray. We have church on Sunday. So we have the living room church here. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I think these words like represent what we, like the fruit that we desire to be experienced in this place. So peace and amani, love, upendo, faith, imani, and hope. Tumaini, you know, and then the cross of Jesus, you know, like it was a sacrifice for us. But there are also people of different faith backgrounds that come, and we want them to feel welcome to come into this place and to trust that God can meet them here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I love that we sort of end this tour. I'm not even saying we're ending, but I love that this tour sort of got into the place where you bring in the spirituality aspect of church. But this is just the Sunday version, or whenever the service is held. I feel like every room that we've been in is, you know, when they say Jesus has hands and feet, Jesus, love in action,
Yeah.
faith in action, peace in action, hope in action. I feel like as we've walked through all the different spaces, we have got to see that.
Yeah, and I would say
This is not just healthcare.
if we need,
I'm trying to say that.
it's true, but if we need to bring a bed in here and take care of a patient, like we believe that the work we're doing, that it's sacred, that it's holy, that this is not our sacred space. Like all of this is sacred and it matters to God.
Wow. Okay. Again, we'll be telling you how to partner.